Okay, so in terms of situational writing, identify purpose, audience, context, structure, and language features. So what we're trying to do, I think purpose, audience, and context is something that you are quite familiar with. Okay. So in this case, actually, it's not so much of like, you know, going through in detail, but it's more of like building up the ability to identify. Okay, so you have to identify. It's not so much about the theory part anymore. It's more of like how you apply finding your purpose, audience, and context. Okay, so later on we'll be giving you some examples. And then also, of course, our current affairs. I think that's basically what we're going to do today. Okay. Okay. I think we'll just skip this. I don't think we need to go through this. Okay. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go through in detail because I think you know quite well. So just a very brief intro. Writing is to response to is in response to a situation, right? So things like, for example, applying for job, providing feedback, communicating with friends and families, all this. Yeah. So before you can respond to any situation, you have to understand the purpose, the audience, and the context. Okay, so this will actually influence the ideas and content because you have to know the purpose first before you decide which content would you like to pick. Okay, later on you'll see why, okay, and what's the difference. Then the organization as well as the structure of your writing. Okay. Uh of course, if you this one is mostly your context. If you understand the context of the task, right, then you will know how should you organize your content and how should you structure your writing. Okay, it's more like the format and the skeleton of the writing. Yeah. And of course, if you understand your audience, for example, it will also determine the words that you choose to use, like choice of words. Because if you're like writing to a principal, then most likely the words that you want to use is like informal, formal, right? For principal. Then for your friends and your cousins, relatives, then probably the words you choose are a little bit more informal. Okay. Okay. So the last one is, of course, words choose, tone and register. Right? Tone and register that you want to convey. So in this case, yeah, like I said, if you know the context, if you know the audience and purpose, you will know the tone and register that you want to convey. Yeah. Okay, now in terms of purpose, there are two main ones, but of course there are subgroups. Okay. But generally, purpose for such situational writing is to inform and to persuade. Okay. It's either to inform or to persuade. Now let's break it down a little bit more, yeah? So if we were to break it down, right, actually informing is more like you describe, okay, like, maybe I want to inform him about Singapore, inform my cousin about Singapore because he's coming here for the first time. Okay, so I'm going to describe how Singapore is to him in the form of like an informative kind of text. Okay. Or maybe I want to report, like I want to lodge a police report. So that is also to inform. Basically, I'm informing the police about um maybe I'm informing the police about a crime that has happened. Okay. Sometimes inform means to make an announcement. Okay. So if you were to make an announcement, it's like you're informing something. Maybe your birthday party, you want to invite people. So it's to inform. The purpose is to inform. Okay. So basically what I'm trying to say is that even under inform and persuade, there can be other subgroups as well. So you need to identify the purpose very clearly. Okay, like to instruct or to notify. So same thing for persuade. Usually persuade, it can be like to convince. Maybe you want to convince your mom to let you go out, to justify, like I'm fighting my point. I want to argue my point. So I want to, be able to argue my point and do well in it, right? So I want to really justify, maybe give some examples, some evidence, some evaluation on how I can argue my point. Okay, and then lastly, it is to make a recommendation. Okay, so when we make a recommendation, it's like for example, your cousin is coming to Singapore and you just want to persuade him to take up your recommendation. Like instead of going to the zoo, maybe you'll tell him, hey, what about go to the new bird paradise or something like that. Okay. Okay. So this one I'll need your response. Let's see. I'm having a little bit of a flu. Okay, anyway. You attended a concert which ended late. You do not want your parents to worry. So you want to send them a message to let them know that you'll be home late. Okay. So what is the purpose of your writing?
To inform my parents why I'm going home late.
Okay. Let me see. Let me write it down. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is to inform. Okay. I think I'll review the answer on the next page. Yeah. Okay. It definitely is to inform. And of course, now that you've decided and you've identified the purpose, the content that you want to include, because your purpose is to inform them that you'll be late. So the content that you want to include might be like a concert that ended late. You do not want them to worry. So therefore you are, informing them. Okay. So just going to review the answer on the next page. Purpose is to inform, you're right. So the words let them know actually tells us that the message is simply just to provide them with specific information. Okay, so the message should include the fact that the concert ended late and that you will come home late. Right? You might even want to include that you do not want them to worry. I think that's fine as well. Okay, now let's try the other one. Next one. You went to attend a concert. You want to get your parents' permission now. Is it to inform or to persuade?
Persuade.
Yes. So you see, there's actually quite a vast difference, right? In this case, you are trying to persuade, and of course, the choice of words that you're going to use are a bit of a more persuasive tone, right? So you want to ask them to allow you to stay out a little bit later after the concert to attend this once in a lifetime meet the fans session. Okay, so these are the content that you want to include. So there's a difference in terms of so now you see the difference, right, between like to inform and to persuade when your purpose changes. Okay, now next one, yeah, basically it is. So the word convince actually tells us that, okay, the message is to persuade them to grant permission. This means that you would need to provide reasons to justify your request. Your message should include the fact that the concert has ended, what you want permission to do, and why. Okay. Now, next one, exercise one, identify the purpose of the task below. You have just read a poster about an event organized by the National Health Society about World Health Day with the focus on diabetes. Your cousin had mentioned that she was keen to get screened for diabetes, but she was not sure about how to go about it. You think that your cousin will be interested to attend and you want to tell her about it. So, what do you think? Is it to okay, maybe I just review the next page first. So the bulleted points are the things that you need to include. Okay, you need to include what are the activities at the event, what's the details of the event, why do you think she should attend? So do you think it is to persuade or to inform? Let's go back to the task again and analyze. Your cousin had mentioned that she was keen to get screened, not sure how to go about it. You think that she would be interested?
Inform.
Yes. Okay, I think this is a close one. You might think it's to persuade, but I think it's closer to inform. Okay, because she has already the intention to go. So all you have to do is just to provide her with more information. So it is to inform, because basically they just want us to tell her more about it and how to go about doing it. Okay, so that will be to inform. Yeah. Okay. Now, next one. Okay. You have just read a poster about an event organized by the National Health Society about World Health Day with the focus on diabetes. You want to persuade your cousin to get herself screened for diabetes because there's a history of diabetes in her immediate family, and you notice she has put on weight recently. Okay. So again, same thing. You have to include the activities, the details, and why do you think she should attend. So in this case, do you think it's to inform or to persuade?
Inform.
I think this
Never
one
mind.
is,
Persuade.
yeah,
Persuade.
this one I think is quite straightforward because the word is already in the task itself. So yes, the purpose is to persuade, right? I mean, it's quite obvious because you can tell from the words want to persuade. Yeah. So that's identifying purpose. And you see the importance of identifying purpose now, because if the purpose, the content is quite similar, it's about health checkup, but the purpose can be so different. And the information you want to choose can be different as well. Okay. Okay, now number two, after purpose, we will learn to identify audience. Of course, audience is important as well because it helps you to achieve your purpose better and target your messages. Okay, what do we mean by targeting your messages? Because we need to know our audience very well. So when we assess the audience of the text, we don't just, oh, the audience is the principal, so this is how we should write it. Sometimes you might just even want to go in depth and think about, oh, so this is the audience and what is the background of the audience, right? He needs to know that, like, for example, the needs, the priorities, the preference they may have, because that helps you to craft your sentences. Okay. Of course, a lot of times we consider the relationship, right? We always consider the relationship that the writer has with you, and then the personality as well. Excuse me. So I'll just give you an example. Okay. For example, an engineer. If an engineer is supposed to give a presentation about a new type of machine, he needs to know his audience. If his audience is his bosses, okay, he needs to prepare a presentation on a new type of machine, right? If his audience is his bosses, they are definitely knowledgeable about the machinery related concepts. So it also determines how he wants to prepare his presentation. Because if your audiences are very knowledgeable, then you need to make sure that all your scientific terms and your technical jargons are all correct. Okay. Whereas if let's say his audience is like the general public, he's supposed to give a presentation about, wow, this new machine that we have. So then the way he actually choose his language is that he needs to be mindful to not make it too technical. If not, general public will not understand. He might just want to use like everyday language or layman's terms so that it's easier for them to understand. Right? So far, okay, Eldia?
Yeah.
Yeah, you understand what I mean, huh? Okay, now let's take a look at the first this one. This is just an example, okay? So we are supposed to showcase our science project and present it to judges who are all science teachers. So this is an example. If your audiences are science teachers, they are likely to have expert knowledge on science concepts, which means that when you're doing your showcase of your science project, you need to make sure that you include more details and more technical jargon. Okay? Like, for example, scientific terms. No. Okay. Now, next one also. Your science project Okay, it's again the content is quite similar.